One day an atheist was walking through the woods. He was admiring the flowers and the trees and how everything came here by chance. Then, out of the corner of his eye, he noticed a bear following in his footsteps. He cried out, "God, help me!" Immediately, time stood still. A voice came from heaven, and God said, "You have denied me your entire life, and now you want my help?" The atheist thought about it for a moment and said, "Yeah, it would be hypocritical if I only called upon you now. But I wonder, could you make the bear a Christian?" Time went back to normal. The bear knelt down on both knees, looking to heaven, said, "Dear God, for this meal that I'm about to receive, make me truly thankful." This is The Christian Bear with Dr. Ben Hilskamp. Welcome to episode 7 of The Christian Bear. I'm your host, Dr. Ben Hilskamp. I hope you caught the special episode of The Christian Bear on Sunday. I confess it was a suggestion that I be changing the podcast format and tenor, but I was convinced over the weekend that The Christian Bear meets the needs of a progressive religious perspective on current events. Have you ever tried hosting a podcast? What about writing a book or maintaining a gallery? The hardest part is watching your hard work get denied or get 2, maybe 3 views. Yes, you want to hug those 2 or 3 listeners, readers, and viewers. But you also want to wake up to 30 views, then 300 views, then 3,000 views and more. But you know it won't happen quickly. If you're listening to The Christian Bear, thank you. If you want to keep up, but you're entirely too busy, I get it. And I'm happy you're trying. I'm probably trying to keep up with your content too. If you're listening 6 months or more after an episode originally dropped, thank you. Could you all do me a favor? Tell your friends. Now, 2 episodes of The Christian Bear have focused in whole or in part on Christian nationalism. If this is a new concept for you, or if you finally have a word for what you've been seeing for years, you might be asking yourself, where did this all start? If this is old hat, you might still be asking yourself that question. The answer is far from simple, and hardly could be covered in one episode. Let's discuss just one reason. Churches in the United States want to be seen as patriotic. How can I know about most Christian congregations? How often have you been to a church that has a U.S. flag inside the sanctuary? Take a moment and let that sink in. There are national flags inside churches. In the Roman Catholic parish I grew up attending, both the national flag and the Vatican's flag, used as a symbol of Catholicism in general, were present in the church, but at the back, behind the last pew. They were never placed in the sanctuary proper. While not unique, many churches proudly place the U.S. flag at the very front of their sanctuaries. Churches want to be seen as patriotic, as connected to the civil community. The line between church and state has always been murky at best. At times the church has controlled the government, and at times the government has controlled the church. Most of the time, the two have existed in a tense symbiosis. St. Nicholas Roman Catholic Parish in Zanesville, Ohio, is one of 2 Catholic churches in the town. St. Nicholas historically catered to German families, while St. Thomas catered to Irish families. While the ethnic divides have long since given way to other differences, St. Nicholas maintains a large mosaic over their main entrance. The mosaic depicts a triumphant Christopher Columbus arriving in the quote-unquote New World and claiming it for Christendom. But why at a historically German Catholic church should an Italian sailing for the Spanish crown be depicted? The mosaic was first installed during World War I, when anti-German sentiment was at such a high level that in some parts of the United States, German Americans were placed in internment camps, much like Japanese Americans would be during World War II. The parishioners of St. Nicholas, some of whom would have still spoken German as a first language, hoped that a mosaic to the quote-unquote founder of a quote-unquote Christian America would demonstrate their patriotism and commitment to the United States. Lest this be lost on my storytelling, Christopher Columbus didn't discover anything. He got lost. He then initiated the systematic genocide of multiple different groups of indigenous peoples. His goal was wealth, not Christianity. The United States is not, nor has it ever been, a Christian nation. The St. Nicholas congregation used Columbus to demonstrate patriotism. Other churches looked to Washington, Jefferson, and still others. Most congregations default to the national standard displayed in their sanctuaries. Recently and unfortunately, Marjorie Taylor Greene made headlines for promoting and selling t-shirts reading, quote, "Proud Christian Nationalist," end quote. Among the many problems of Christian nationalism is whose flavor of Christianity rises to power. Going back to that murky line between religion and the state, with which Europe has struggled since at least the time of the Roman Empire, theocracy is great when it's your theology. We already know what conservatives think about Islam having any influence in the United States. Granted, they typically have a maximum of a second-grade understanding of Islam. But Marjorie, what if the Catholics take over and govern the United States based on their theology and canon law? Can you pray the rosary and know enough Latin to pass the qualifications for voting? What if the Southern Baptists take over and legislate all women out of government? Are you okay with those changes? The United States is not now, nor has it ever been a Christian nation. While there may have been shameful times in our collective history when it was necessary to demonstrate patriotism in churches or pass a patriot's litmus test, positioning the national standard in church sanctuaries has become an unconscious requirement of American religion. With the possible exceptions of Vatican City and Mount Athos, civil flags have no place in churches, just as church flags have no place in the halls of government. However, try to remove Old Glory from a country church, and you may as well try to remove Jesus. And while that might not be an example of Marjorie Taylor Greene and Ron Tucker's Christian nationalism, it still shows how deeply entrenched the problem is today. This has been The Christian Bear with Dr. Ben Hilskamp.